In CSGO, there is nothing more interesting and polarizing than the battle between the M4A4 and the M4A1S. And today we're going to be taking a look back in history and kind of look at how they have changed across the battlefield. Because yes, they are at war. So when CSGO first launched in 2012, there was only one option for a really good CT-sided rifle, and that was the M4A4. But on August 14th, 2013, everything was going to change forever with the arms deal update. This was when they finally added the M4A1 to the game, the M4A1S. When it first dropped though, it wasn't super popular. People definitely preferred the M4A4 just because of all the benefits of it, but it was definitely a really nice change. Later that month on August 29th, they released another update because the M4A1S was kind of broken. So they fixed the M4A4 loadout selection not saving correctly between sessions, and they fixed competitive round backups restoring M4A1S as M4A4. Like if that happened during a tournament, that must have been absolutely game breaking. And then just under a year later, they fixed a networking regression with the M4A1S when fired by a player who is not the owner of the original item. So lag if you use the wrong weapon, like that seems completely game breaking. And of course they showed the Howl some love by updating it to show as the right quality in Go TV streams. Very nice. December 10th, 2014 was the day that they finally added a meaningful update to the M4A1S. They increased the price of the M4A1S to $3,100, and I believe it was $2,900, but feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in the comments down below. They also fixed the muzzle flash showing through smoke. Yeah, they finally made the M4A1S useful and not a completely broken weapon. The next update was March 31st, 2015, just in time for Operation Vanguard to come to an end. And Valve had the audacity to raise the price from $3,100 to $3,200 for the M4A1S, making it more expensive than the M4A4. So at this point, the silenced M4 was kind of not really worth buying anymore. Let's fast forward to September 15th. Valve finally fixed the issue where weapons would poke through walls, and they also reduced the price of the M4A1S, they reduced the armor penetration, reduced the rate of fire, and increased the base spread. And at this point, if people didn't already switch over to the M4A4, this was the breaking point, and this is where the M4A4 started to become the meta again. On December 8th, 2015, Valve tried to pull a Valorant, and they wanted to basically nerf spray control. They wanted to make it harder to spray people from farther away. Yeah, they adjusted the recovery time. And this was probably one of the most controversial updates to ever come out in CSGO. Everyone was pissed off, no one liked it, and people were starting to leave the game. But exactly 1 week later, Valve decided, all right, you know what, people don't like this update, let's revert it. So they reverted it back to how it was before.
We made some adjustments to rifles recently, and those changes have been causing a lot of pain in the SCO community. Why change rifles at all? In SCO, spraying is generally the most popular way of firing a rifle. Because we think it's valuable for players to have choices when they're thinking about how to engage an opponent, we looked at ways to make tapping bursting a bit more appealing. The hope was that by encouraging more deliberate firing, we wanted something skillful that players could use to their advantage. As a first step toward this goal, we increased recovery time for the M4A4. Unfortunately, our implementation failed in a few ways. For one thing, increasing in accuracy while spraying also comes with reduced accuracy for all forms of firing. Proportionally, spraying was the most impacted, but we underestimated the impact that the change would have on players who are already firing in shorter bursts.
Thank you so much, 3 clicks Philip. Well, basically, they realized they made a mistake and they ruined the game, so they reverted it and the game was saved. Good job, Valve. On August 3rd of 2016, they finally gave it another crack to see if they could fix the issue and make it more balanced. They called this one Operation Second Shot, even though it wasn't an operation. So today we're shipping a new weapon accuracy recovery method and new recovery rates for the AK-47, M4A1S, and M4A4. Accuracy recovery rate determines how quickly the accuracy of a weapon returns to its baseline value after firing. It was previously expressed as a fixed value, but is now split into initial and final values. Now shorter firing sequences can be designed to recover accuracy faster and longer ones. Basically, they want people to play in a variety of different ways. They want people to burst, one tap, all that kind of stuff. They don't want people to just rely on spraying. Here's the values. There's just a couple little pictures right here. Aim tapping, essentially tap firing a little bit more accurate. So specifically for the AK, I'm assuming it also applies to the M4, but they basically made it more accurate for the first like 15 or so bullets, and then after that it is less accurate. And I think this was a much better implementation compared to their other previous update. So this is where Valve really tried to make the game better and tried to balance it better. And you know what? I think they succeeded. And then aside from a few bug fixes and a few like textures on skins being updated, they kind of went on a little hiatus from updating the M4A1S until June 12th, 2018, when they increased the reserve ammo from 40 to 60 to provide some additional utility without impacting brief engagements. So yeah, they made spraying a little bit more viable. And this is where the smoke meta started to really shape up. 9 months later, in March of 2019, they finally did a big enough buff for the M4A1S that really made it more viable. And they basically increased the magazine size from 20 to 25. And they also increased the reserve ammo from 60 to 75. And trust me, those 5 extra bullets made such a big difference. But, you know, obviously the difference between the A4 and the A1 was still very close. And at this point, it was mostly just down to personal preference. Actually, a lot of people were using the AUG at this point, so the M4s weren't even that popular. And then on April 10th, 2020, they released an update that changed the game forever. And they reduced the price of the M4A1S from $3,100 to $2,900, essentially making it $200 cheaper than the M4A4, while also it being an incredible gun with a suppressor you can shoot through smokes. Basically, it was the go-to option for everybody because it was cheaper, you could buy an extra flash, it was really, really good, and there were basically no downsides. And then with the introduction of Operation Riptide on September 21st, 2021, that's a lot of 21s, but Valve decided to increase the body damage on the M4A1S, making it even more viable. So yeah, this was the point where the M4A1S was at its absolute peak in terms of being just overall the best rifle to go with on the CT side. Like the M4A4 just couldn't stand a chance. And then June 15th of this year, 2022, they reduced the size back to 20 bullets, but they increased the reserve to 80. At least for the pros, this wasn't really enough of a nerf to get them to move back to the M4A4 because, I mean, 20 bullets is still decent. Like, as long as you're accurate, you can do work with it and you can do really well. I mean, you know, the suppressor makes that much of a difference when you're spamming through smokes. And now we've made it to the most recent update. And this is obviously where they removed Dust 2 from active duty, replaced it with Anubis. They also nerfed the op and they reduced the range of the M4A1S modifier from 0.99 to 0.94. So in some situations from far away, it might take an extra bullet. And we have to go take a look at what the pros have to say about it.
I think it's a really good change. My ideal vision of the game is I want players to decide on whether or not they want to use the A1 or A4. And I think that
honestly, I agree, Nitro. And I think that's what Valve is trying to do. They're trying to make both of them relatively similar, but, you know, wildly different in the same way.
I think right now most pros are debating on is if they want to use it on specific maps or not, because like these close range maps or like maps where you're spamming their smokes constantly, you don't want to see tracers. I think it's really cool that we have the option now to choose which one we want.
From what I saw at the beginning, it's a big difference, and I think a lot of players will switch to A4. I'm sorry for that because I really like Silencer and I was playing on it like almost all my life. If I need to change, I will change, maybe even buy AUG.
To play the silencer right, and now it's unplayable.
So a lot of the pros have different kinds of opinions, and we're gonna have to wait until Abu Dhabi, the next tournament where they're actually gonna have this update, to see how the new update really affects it. And there's a chance we might see way more M4A4s. But of course, you can't forget about the skins, because the M4A1S has some of the sickest looking skins out of anything. And the M4A4 has a few decent ones, but for the most part, the M4A1S definitely has the better skins, straight up. With the M4A1S, you have the Welcome to the Jungle, you have the Grid Stream, even the Night Terror for a low budget. Plus, you can't forget about the Nightmare, as well as the Decimator. But the M4A4 does have some bangers as well, like the Tooth Fairy, the Neo Noir, and of course, you can't forget about the Howl, the M4A4 Howl. By the way, I don't know if you guys noticed, but when I was researching this video, I found out something really shocking. I mean, aside from a few bug fixes here and there, Valve has never actually changed the M4A4 in any meaningful way. They've never nerfed it, they've never buffed it. The M4A1S has only been the one that's gotten all the changes. And that's strange because, I mean, basically, the M4A4 is exactly the same as it was when the game launched. And the M4A1S is wildly different. I don't know, I just thought that was a little interesting. Overall though, this was a fun video to make and I learned a lot about the M4s. Drop a like if you guys enjoyed it, leave a comment down below letting me know your thoughts, subscribe with the bell icon rung, or else a dog will eat your cat food. Stay safe everyone, it's Turbo and I'm out, peace.